You asked for it, you get it. Ryu and I will rip your photos into smithereens. Hold on to your headphones. Here comes the pain.
Woo! It's on cue. And Matt and I were just talking about iPhone 6, iPhone, no, D4 and D4S. And we'll probably, I don't know, I think I'll do, you're not sure you're gonna get one? No?
I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Yeah, we might do a review in the future, but not right now, because we need to do training ground. And anything we need to talk about before? No, probably not. So let's just start with Thomas Roberts, skateboard. I don't think it has to be here. No, this one. Can I skip? Do you want to say something? Is there something really wrong with this?
No. I actually like this, and I like that he went for it. It's underexposed, which is a shame, and he's also put a vignette on there, which is annoying. But I can overlook all that because he actually went for it and tried something that we've been talking about, and not on something that's. See, the thing is that you can pan on motorsports and you can pan on track, and things that go in a straight line, but panning on things that don't go in a straight line and that have unpredictable kind of movements, that's what we're talking about, like taking a risk. Not everybody can pan on motorsports. This is more difficult, and so he gets points for doing that. I would just, instead of dicking around with vignettes and colors and whatever, get the exposure right the first time and don't annoy us.
I think it's we've now seen quite a lot of people doing the whole vignetting as well as colorizing and things like that. I think you know exactly who we're talking about, and for a lot of you, really, I think you should hang your head in shame. You can't. You shouldn't be.
Here's the thing: if you're trying to appeal to people who look at wedding pictures and portraits and whatever, then yeah, go ahead, vignette away, because that's what those people are used to seeing. But if you're trying to impress editors at newspapers and magazines and commercial clients and things like that, you're making yourself into a joke. Like I'm sure they have a pile on their desk of people who got carried away with filters and vignettes and things like that. Just don't do it. You're not going to be taken it seriously if you do it.
It's a bit of a crutch more than anything else, and it's not like you've reinvented sports photography if you're doing these things. And anything, you know, like for black and white conversion, colorizing, vignetting, everything has to be good before you can start making any changes. These things might add a bit to your already excellent picture, but it's not gonna like turn shit into gold. And I really have to emphasize that. And if you want to get good at this, don't do it. Really, really don't do it, because you're not learning anything. You're just like, you know, fidgeting on Photoshop for an hour. Anyway, I like this one a lot. I think it's really, really good, and I love how the background's blurry, and you know, because of the slow shutter speed, and I think it's framed very, very well. It's really a shame that he's actually on training ground. So Thomas, good job. We don't talk about this about good photos. Nothing wrong with it as well, no, but it feels like the balance is a bit off in this, and I don't know why. Maybe it's the palm trees that kind of cuts off at the middle that really bothers me, or it's just not that interesting. And I think this would have been really, really interesting had the shadow was casting in a more interesting shadow, or it was just in a more interesting picture. I sound terrible when I say this, but it's not. There's so many pictures like this, and it's nothing new. And as a sports photographer, you're not trying to you're trying like not to replicate what everyone else has been doing, because I think you should be beyond it at some point. And from what he can do before, from the previous picture, I think he should be doing something a bit more. And yeah, I think this is not particularly.
This picture is undone by a lot of little, very tiny little details that just start chipping. It just starts chipping away at the picture itself. And again, this is underexposed, and this is a photography 101 kind of lesson, and it's not what we teach here. If you don't understand about exposure, if you don't understand about how to use your camera to get a proper exposure, no matter what settings you're using, then you need to go back and read about that kind of stuff. The blue sky is nice, but you want the skater's face to be properly exposed, and it's almost completely underexposed here. The balance is wrong. It's not because the palm trees end, it's because there's too much, the space in the bottom and that cone is screwing you, but it should be cropped up tighter, and the problem is that if you cropped it up to where it should be, which is basically the bottom of the wall, you would only have half the cone, and it would look bad. If you hang out here, I know exactly where this is. I used to live in LA, and it's a really cool kind of area. There's pictures everywhere, surfers and people swinging on rings, and there's an open air weightlifting area there, and skateboarding and rollerblading and all that kind of stuff. It's really, you could go there and shoot all day and never get bored. If you're down there, talk to these guys. Like this kid, if you said, you know what, let me get a couple really cool pictures of you, I just need to move this cone, they're going to let you do that. And you need to have that kind of rapport with these guys if you're going to get the best pictures that you possibly can. So if you had moved this cone and cropped it up to the bottom of the wall, then it would have been way more imbalanced than it is now. The other thing is that the kids on the right-hand side, the picture doesn't need to go, or I'm sorry, on the left-hand side, the picture doesn't need to go all the way over there. And really, the left edge of the picture is backpacks and kids who aren't relevant to the picture at all. So you could have cropped that in by like 2 inches or something like that and been a lot better off. But go back here and work with them. You know, like everybody, kids like this love to have their picture taken. They'll do the shit that you want them to do. And if that cone is in the way, then just say, you know what, for 5 minutes or whatever, can I just get as many pictures as I can without that cone there? They'll let you do it, I promise. But photography 101, get the exposure right.
Because Matt doesn't like those. Howard Gatsby. Not the same Gatsby that we all know. I gotta kind of make it quick. It's either remote or he's just crouched down. He's just sitting there and doing it. If I'm just gonna assume, doesn't really matter if it's remote or he's crouching there and doing this. It's not a really interesting picture because it's just a goal. And I'm saying that like it's not like he scored and he goes into the net right in front of you and he grabs the net and he's screaming. It's not. Action's too far. It's not a particularly interesting action either. And you kind of have to get it out of your head that it's a goal, therefore it automatically equals an interesting photo, and it's not the case. So, I don't know. What can you do? You have to wait. If you're going to be here all match long, it's hardly unlikely you're going to have a guy who's going to rush towards the net right in front of you, grabbing it. Or something crazy happens during a corner kick, where everybody's like mushed right in the middle, but it's if you're going to be shooting from this angle with this wide of a lens, would it be like a fisheye or 1424, whatever, it's going to be very difficult to get a very, very good shot because the action has to be spectacular for it to be good. And in this case, it's not. Would I do it? If you really, really, really want to do it for one match, I would suggest you do. Just sit there and just wait. If you have an extra camera, you got a remote, you can just put that there and just wait. But it's one of those things that.
When was the last time you did a behind the goal remote?
I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't really find it very interesting.
It's just not
the stuff,
So this kind of thing. If you're shooting for.
Oh, Matt, can you just tell everybody why agencies do remotes? Because I think that's probably very important.
Yeah, so I was just going to get into that. If you're working for AP or Getty or Reuters or something like that, then you're kind of responsible, if you're shooting this, for getting absolutely everything that happens. And they have an unlimited budget, and their photographers are paid whether they sell anything or not, and that's just part of their job. But if you're shooting a beer league game, it's just the odds. Like if you're shooting a World Cup game and you want to have a bunch of remotes and because you need to get absolutely everything, then it just makes sense. You just bring your kit and you set it up all over the place, and then if you didn't get anything, you didn't get anything, and you're still getting paid for all of it. But it just seems like overkill for a game like this, because the odds for a big celebration, like you got the ball in the net, but honestly, that guy's not doing anything cool. He just scored. The guys who just gave up the goal are kind of just, oh well, we gave up a goal or whatever. The goalie doesn't seem to care. The odds of you getting something good from this are just so low. For every time that you set this up, it's just so low. And I just don't do it anymore. Like, it hasn't been 5 years, but it's probably been 3 years since I've done this. And I'll probably just never do it again, because it's just what you get from it isn't worth the hassle of, maybe having your camera smashed by the ball, pushing the net all the way back or whatever. It's just not worth it. And again, if you have a client who needs every single angle of a goal so that they can choose what they want or whatever, then that's one thing. But otherwise, it's just too low of a percentage, and it's not even really worth the work to do it.
And we move along. Ricardo Garcia. I don't know, can we just say it's really unspectacular and that's it? Can we just move on? Because it's the motor sport that we're going to score again. I don't really particularly want to, because we talked about it ad nauseum here.
Yeah, I mean, it's, all I'll say is that I wrote a blog post about this for the site. You can find it on biglensfastshutter.com. It's called "Who Did the Work?" and you didn't do the work here. The track designer, the people that painted the bike, the people that came up with the logos, they did more work here than you did. You've added nothing to this whatsoever. If you have the gear to do this, if you have the access to do this, you can do more interesting things than this. This is boring, and it just gets skipped over by everybody.
And we skip. And we skip as well. So, Mike Groom, who's actually done something interesting, I think, this time, it's not this one. He's done something really good. I don't know, what was that? That was the cycling one. Really, by the way, like, if you want to see really good, it was a good cycling shot, huh? Just go look for Mike Groom's, Flickr account, and there's a really good cycling one that I pulled it out of the training ground because it really didn't deserve to be here. And I think he just wanted us to talk about it because he did a good job, and he just wants some compliments, but he's not going to get any because, well, we'll be beyond that now. 3 cars, Matt Cohen.
So this is the kind of picture that, at least he's paying attention and he's put himself in the right spot of the track, but and something cool might happen at some point, but the problem here is that where he needed to be was on the other side, and obviously there's no good place to shoot from that gravel pit, but here, the 2 cars that are, and I like the juxtaposition of it and everything, but it just doesn't work because the one car is off the track, and you're like, okay, well, I want to see what's going on with that car sliding through the gravel or whatever, and you don't get to see it. And so it's kind of like a letdown because of that. This would have been better if the car that's in focus was close to you and maybe skidding through the grass or something like that, but as it is, it's enough to hold your attention for 5 or 10 seconds or whatever, but it's not a good picture.
It's very hard to say like why it doesn't work, because in theory it should, because it should 3 cars in a row, and I kind of think that it's a bit of a problem of having 3 different cars, and that doesn't really work for me. And I think it's like 3 similar cars, it might have, but at the same time, the idea of actually having 3 cars, one a little bit further than the other one, in any like in this context, in a straightaway, it doesn't really work from this angle. It doesn't really think. I'm just trying to like picture in my head like how it would look, and it doesn't look good. So I think the idea was there, that he shot it, and then he wanted to see if it worked, and obviously doesn't work. So I hope he realizes that and moves on, and he doesn't do this kind of stuff again, because it's something
actually there's a simpler reason why this doesn't work, and it's if you're going to have the things that are out of focus or blurred or something like that in the foreground and making up such a large percentage of the frame, then whatever else you want people to focus on needs to be really compelling. And unfortunately, the thing that's in focus, you can't see very much of it, so that just makes it not compelling. It's not doing anything cool, so it's not compelling. And really, what you have, what's obvious, what is supposed to be drawing you in, are two cars that are blurred out because they're moving at a different speed than he was panning at. So that's a problem that it's very hard to overcome. And like I said, the thing that's actually the focus of the picture needs to be great, and this just isn't that.
As we go, Carl Holmes. And Carl Holmes is shooting rugby somewhere. I don't know where exactly he is, but he is shooting rugby. I'll make it quick. We don't really condone having pictures taken of a moment that happens basically 8,000 times per match or game or whatever you want to call it. And that's one of those moments, like, if it's in football, like it's, American football, it will be a guy passing the quarterback, passing the ball, or running back running the ball with the ball. Or if it's soccer, it will be, a guy kicking the ball, things like that. And if you want to have pictures like that and make it look spectacular, you have to make it look spectacular. And in rugby, there are moments that basically the guy gets tackled, or a guy's trying to tackle, or the guy is running with the ball. And it has to look spectacular, and that's not the case over here. As Matt Coleman would probably say, if it was a frame after this, maybe the guy would actually make the tackle and maybe it would be interesting. And Matt Coleman would probably say that he's standing up and shooting this picture in the sun.
Yeah, that's just, that wouldn't have helped this picture, but you need to get in the habit of laying down or squatting down or kneeling down or whatever. You can't stand up and shoot sports like this. It just doesn't work. The other thing is that it's late. I mean, like you missed it. This guy broke a tackle or made this guy miss or something like that, and he's already a stride past where he was. I want to know what happened when the guy with the ball went through the guy who has his hands up, because that's really a way more interesting part of the picture than what we have here. And when you have something that's in the background be more interesting than the focus of your picture, then you're doing something wrong. The other thing, I guess, if you had been where this guy had been running and you had him in focus and then the kid with the arms up in the air right behind him or something, it might have been a significantly better picture than it is now. But what remains is you were standing up, it's a routine play, and you missed the peak of the action. So those are all things to work on for next time.
You suck. Mitch Getson. I don't know. I don't think this should actually be here, though. It's interesting, weird.
No, this is yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's
interesting enough.
Yeah, this is all right. It's it's underexposed, and I don't know. I don't want to sound like a broken record on it, but really, it's photography 101. Expose your pictures properly.
It's 400ths of a second as well, which is a bit too slow. I would make sure that it's a bit, because it does look a bit blurry, and there's a reason why. It's more of a motion blur than anything else. So just make sure you up the shutter speed next time. Well, it's like it's a rugby bonanza today. A bit better on this one, right? With the bit more action.
Yeah, if you're gonna do straight up action, then I want somebody completely laid out like this, and so that's at least the timing is there, right? This guy's not about to hit the ground or something like that. Like he's really in midair, but the part of this is editing. So if you shot a whole rugby match, which I don't know how long rugby matches are, but when I've shot them, they seem like they're really, really long. I'm sure that there were other tackles, maybe with a cleaner background or something like that. And so part of this is editing. Like, yes, you got this, but did you get a better version of this? And then we really only need to see one of them. I don't need to see two tackles like this. Just pick the one that's
Yeah.
better and has a cleaner background and move ahead with
It's
that.
really distracting, you know, the referee in the background, especially with that color, it's not very, very good. And only for that reason, I would just like say, I would just scrap this one because my eyes just keep on going to the ref, and that's
When
really
there are things, see, the thing is that, like, when there are, we talk about in soccer, like what Ryu was just saying about kicking the ball or whatever, those things happen so often that if you just keep making pictures of them, you will end up with the perfect version of that picture. This isn't that perfect version. So if you don't have it, if this is the apex of what you've been able to get so far, which I kind of doubt, then that's one thing. But otherwise, just show us the good one.
Mm.
It doesn't. The one that was like, oh, that would have been really cool if the ref hadn't have been there, or if they hadn't parked all those cars in the background or whatever. You don't need to be showing that. You want to be taken seriously as a photographer. You really only want people to see your very best stuff. And if you're at the point where you're not very good and you want us to critique your stuff, then yeah, absolutely put it on there. But you really should be moving through that stage as quickly as you can, because if you would show this to someone and say, an editor, and say, this is the best rugby picture that I could get, they're going to be looking at it and saying, yeah, except for the ref in the background, and how long have you been shooting rugby that this is the best picture that you could get of this kind of play.
And that won't be good. Yeah. So I'm picturing this in color, and not in a million years I would keep this photo. I throw it away every fucking single time. But look at this. You add a little color, tone it up. Voila, you have a wonderful picture. But the problem is, it's not wonderful at all. It's a bit shitty picture of Mr. Adam Butler. And the same Adam Butler today had a really cool shot. Have you seen that one on the group?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
It's a great picture.
Yeah, again, we're in a situation where the thing in the foreground is not the subject of the picture, and the thing in the background is out of focus. And it's unfortunate because this is like, he's gone to great lengths to make sure that it's straight, and he's really shooting dead on, like it's completely balanced. Like the guy with the ball and the defender are, exactly the same, or give or take the same distance from the edges of the frame, and the building in the background is going parallel to the edge of the frame, and that's all really good stuff. But the problem is that converting it to black and white doesn't change the focus of it, and it doesn't change the fact that the thing in the foreground is in focus and the background action, which is really where it's going on, is out of focus. You can do things like that, but it has to be interesting. Like this guy who's like half-assed running to get back on defense isn't interesting. So having him in focus is telling the viewer's brain, okay, look at him, and then you look at him and you're like, well, he's not doing anything, and why is that guy out of focus? So again, I like the careful composition of all of this, but the moment and the focus and the fundamentals and all that are just screwed, and there's no amount of toning that's going to fix that.
But the thing is, like, I really love backlit pictures. It's really one of my favorites, to do. And
yeah.
I just kind of think it's
It seemed like it was all set up.
Because and it's really a shame because he's really good. I mean, some of the stuff he does is really, really good. The fact that you thought this was okay and you thought you could just color, put some color, or take some color out really, and do this and make it into a picture is very bad practice. Like, I don't want you to get in the habit of this. And like people like Brendan Bank and like you, I'm not you, Mr. Adam Butler, you should be beyond that now. And we will, for some people, honestly, you should not resort to these really cheap tactics of tacky stuff that you're going to be doing with your photo. Please don't. You should be raising the level photography-wise and not Photoshop-wise. And let that be a lesson, honestly, because we expect great things from all these people. So it's not very good. I think it's one of the best pictures he's done, huh? Reed. Right? This one. We've seen it, right?
I haven't seen this
Not cool.
before, but yeah, this is clearly better than.
No, but you've seen his work though.
Clearly better than the
really
cycling.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And it's I hope he's watching this because I invited a bunch of his pictures in here. I didn't invite this one because it didn't need to be here. I invited the other ones because they did need to be here. You're not helping yourself by saying you're not helping your bad pictures by putting a good picture in here. Like that's not what this is all about. We invited the bad pictures in here because we want to be able to help you do it, and by putting a good picture in here, it's not going to make us say, oh, well, he can do better, so we're not going to criticize the bad ones. This is not how this works.
And we move on to Trevor Gensch, and it's really rugby bonanza today, and it's really a standard picture. We talked about this. We're not going to get into it, really. It's a standard picture tackling love. So the next thing really is that you need to start thinking that if you can get shots like this, what can you do next?
This picture screams, I shot 1,000 frames at this game. That's what you're telling us here. Like, I shot every single play and all the ones that are in focus and close to properly exposed or whatever, I capped it and I put a bunch of them up or something like that. And I don't know. I shot a college football game the other day and I shot 130 pictures. Because
that's it.
I'm not. I'm looking for moments at this point. I don't need a running back coming through the line of scrimmage. I want a sack. I want a really hard hit that knocks somebody's helmet off. I want a diving catch. I want a good celebration picture. A standard running back getting tackled or whatever, it's just not worth my time to even process that at this point. I'm not saying that everybody needs to be there, but everybody needs to be working past getting standard pictures like this and thinking that there's something when they're not anything. It's just, I can't tell you that, I mean, I saw something that like 90% of all pictures on the internet are from the last 5 years. Or 90% of all pictures that have been made or something like that are in the past few years or something like that. Whatever it is, the point of it is that there's just an accelerating rate of pictures, and it's overwhelmingly happening. Everything's happening right now. So you think about that, and when you want somebody's attention and you put up a bunch of pictures like this, you're not going to get that attention. They're going to get bored, and they're just going to tune you out because why am I looking at this? Unless you're the guy who has the balls relative or something like that, you're just not going to care about this. It's not interesting enough. And again, I don't care if you make 1,000 frames at a thing, but you need to edit better afterwards and really only show the 10 or 15 best pictures, if you got 10 or 15 good pictures. This isn't one of them.
I don't know. I'll just go back to what we talked about. Another motorsports picture that's about the bike stuff. Yeah. He's new, by the way, and he was trying to like put the image up and everything, because I think people seem to like not be able to do simple tasks such as putting the image up. But I have to say, it's not very intuitive how Flickr wants you to put images into threads. So I will give you a pass on this one. But welcome, Jeremy. And we talk about motorsports a lot because for some reason people just get really gung-ho about motorsports anywhere in the world, and we try to basically tell them that you have to take something that is very interesting and it's really isn't. I don't know, like, should we just kind of have like things that you should not do anymore if you're taking motorsports pictures?
I don't know. I mean, everybody's at a different point on their own curve of getting to being good. And
like the same, isn't it? Like just.
I just think that if you're taking pictures and you're holding them up as oh look how cool this is. What if this was the out here they have a race that's called the 24 Hours of Lemons. and it's a takeoff of Le Mans. And so they have cars that cost, I think it's like $500 or less or something like that, and they're just absolute beaters, and they run them into the ground, and like the last one standing wins or something like that. So this is exactly what I was talking about before. Like, this is a beautiful, beautiful classic Ferrari. But that's what people are looking at when they're looking at this picture. If this had been a picture from that race that I was just talking about, people would be like, oh, you know. So what did you do? You don't own this car. You weren't the mechanic on it or whatever. You're just some dude who's standing on the side taking pictures. And what did you do? You made a picture of a classic Ferrari, and that's why people want to look at it. Not because it's a good picture, not because it's interesting or whatever. It's just anybody could have done this. And yeah, you got the panning right and you got the framing right and everything, and it's whatever crazy aspect ratio you're using, but it's not enough to make it an interesting picture. And substitute that car for a junker, and what do you have? Then if that's the only thing that makes this picture worth looking at, then you need to make more interesting pictures.
And I think if you're going to start venturing on to trying to have an interesting moment in racing, I don't know where to start with this, because we have spoken. This seems to be one of the most popular sports in sports photography, because I think there's a lot of like car mania involved. There are a lot of people who love cars. And
well, I think it's the same people that are into geeking out on cameras are into geeking out about cars.
Yeah, what's the thing? It's like it's basically car porn. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not really car sports racing photography, and you have to like show us like why this is racing, because is he battling out with like another car? He's not. So if you're gonna consider like if he's just having a lap around the circuit, and if he's not being timed, then it's not a competition. So therefore, it's not really sports. So if he's being timed, if there are other cars, then you have to really think about it in your head. How can I make this into a sports photography or photograph? Really? And I'd love to give you answers, but it'd be boring if we did. So I'm just gonna let you think about it and come up with something a bit more interesting than just take fucking car going in a straight line and blurry background. It's not gonna do it. Good God. It's very surreal though, this one. It was a bit really surreal. And I like it. I really do, because the black background really throws everything off. And I think it's really, really interesting. But I don't know. Maybe it's that he's been doing this really, honestly, I'm looking at it right now, it shouldn't be here. Because I think it's really interesting enough. And in a very rare moment, that I'm praising a picture that is happening on the other side of the pitch. Because in most cases, we've been talking about it, it's a bit too far, and something extraordinary has to be happening in order for it to be a viable picture. And I think the only problem that I have is that it's not a particularly interesting moment. I do love the fact that there's that, what are they called, these rackets? What are they called? Lacrosse?
Lacrosse sticks.
Sticks. And that. And I really like that. Like, it'd be even better if the guy was raising it as well. So it kind of has a little bit of a frame to it. But I really wish it was a much more interesting moment, because I love the background. It's absolutely pitch black, and everything's just really there. It's just lacking in a great moment. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a story about something about, aesthetically pleasing but not really interesting, sports photography moment. Claudio, I'm not probably name. It's okay. You can take it. We had this in the conversation. Claudio, who lives in Brazil, I'd actually stayed with him a couple of nights in Brazil whilst shooting World Cup. He shoots surfing, and he showed us this picture of this, wonderful wave, beautiful wave, and he really liked it. But I told him, as well as another sports photographer who was also there, who was my colleague, to say the whole this is not good enough for me, because you have to have a surfer in there. And the point is, you could have this most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful backdrop or a scenery, and they're playing, and there's no one doing anything in interesting. So it's that whole theory of like having at least two interesting things going on in any sports photograph. That's what I try to do as much as possible. And this one to me is it's got a beautiful, beautiful, background. It's the scenery, but the action itself is really, really boring. And Claudio, I remember like he was disagreeing with us because he said like, yeah, there's not. I mean, I didn't see any surfers there. But my colleague and I said the whole point is to then sit there until that moment happens, because we're looking for miracles here. We're not looking for like mundane, nice scenery moments, and then that's just Ansel Adams stuff, and that's a whole different thing altogether. That you're not. It's not sports. It's just wave photography. So I don't want this to be like. I think there is something interesting going on, but you have to be very, very cautious about the moment, the great, sporting moments happening in a beautiful background. And I think it's much better than the subsidies actually. I'm done with my rant. I'll move on. All right, Matt. This is about right?
Right. So there's a lot of, I don't know, maybe he hasn't gotten the hang of shooting cycling yet or something, but this is not good, and the rest of them are not good. This is okay. So people who know, and people who have done this, and people who are editors or whatever, this just screams sloppy to them because it's not a good pan. It's not well exposed, and it's not well composed. So you really don't have anything at all here. If you want to go in tight, then go in tight, and if you want to pull back, then pull back. But you're caught in a never land here. There's not enough space in the frame for their legs and the pedals, but there's all this space for not interesting, blurred out stuff in the top. It's not. This is not what we're looking for at all. This is what happens when they're like, oh, I'm gonna pan, and then you just pull your camera up and real quickly drop the shutter and then just pan. Like you need to think about this kind of stuff. Like, where do I want to be on the course? What has an interesting background? Like, what made that lacrosse picture before really good is that you recognize that all the light was on the field and none of the light was in the background. So you need to look for those kind of things outside. Like, there's going to be places on any circuit where there's either a really uniform kind of building in the background, or it's on a hill and there's just blue sky, or they're going by a hillside and it's just grass, and then you need to use that. But having the stuff blurred out in the background and having it take up more of the frame and then cutting off their feet in the bottom, that's not good enough.
It's that photo on this one, and you can't have these. Nice green. Was he trying something new here?
It looks like he was just panning around the curve or something.
It's a bit all over the place, Mike. And I said this before, like I'm not. It looks okay. It's raining, or is it just me? Or is it my eyes? Am I getting old? I don't know. It's not very good. Yeah, I don't know what's on to get it. Like I really don't like when things are crooked, especially in motorsports, because people think it's really cool to do, but it really just throws people off. I have to bend my neck so left to see it, and it's still not very good. So, and you kind of desaturate a bit, it's not very good. It's not well, blurred in the background either. I can see people in the background shouldn't be there if you're going to be panning, and not very interesting. Alright, is he going to skip this? It's the antithesis of like what was good about the lacrosse thing with the empty background, and now it's a whole lot of show. Same exact situation.
Yeah.
Like shooting, goalkeeper, and focus.
And the thing is, the funny thing is that this is a better moment than lacrosse picture was. And
It is.
That just goes to show you that you can do everything right as far as timing, but where you set up was a problem. And we talk about this a lot. When I shoot soccer and I'm shooting from the end line, I'm selective even if I'm shooting at midfield, because you can't isolate the action there, and if something in midfield is going to be in focus, then the opposite goal is going to be in focus. And what you have here is you're shooting from all the way on the other side, and yeah, the goal is in focus, but so are the trees in the background, and they're just way too easily identifiable as trees. And it doesn't matter what kind of lens you have, it's always going to be like that. So what you want to do is set yourself up so that if something cool does happen, you're going to be able to get a cool picture of it. And there could have been really crazy things going on here, and it still would have looked bad. And you just need to take advantage of your surroundings, and you did that in the lacrosse picture, even though it wasn't a good moment, and you haven't done it here, even though it's a better moment with the goalie. That's kind of like a crazy outfit, and then the defender with that mask on and running out and trying to block it. It's just a way better moment, but you're so far away that you weren't able to isolate the action, and you let in a whole lot of things that didn't need to be in there.
We're doing we're running the whole you win right now on, up close and personal. And what better is to take pictures of all these girls with these fucked up masks, I don't understand why people don't even think about these. Just relax and think about what's interesting. This is really, because we don't get that much these kind of crazy masks on, women athletes. I don't think it's very, very common to have these things. Okay, why don't you just then do it? It's there right in front of you. What's interesting? I would find that more interesting if you're gonna start doing the, on the pitch portraits of these up close, these really ugly masks on these girls. And I find it fascinating. It's much more than a shot that is shot from on the other side of the pitch. So you gotta really think about it. You gotta really think. We keep on saying this is not a stupid person's photography sports. There's a lot of thinking involved, a lot of planning, and just in general, a lot of brain usage. And if you don't use it, you get shots like this, which is just it's nothing. Good God. I mean, how cool would that be? Okay, the thing I'm going to say about this is apparently Matt Cohen lives very close to where this is happening. I don't know why this is here, as it's not a sport, it's an athletic thing. So I'm just going to keep on going.
Well, I mean, it's sporting enough to be in here. What are you doing? Come on.
Really? It's horrendous from beginning to end. There's nothing good about it.
No, right. But it's still a sport, and it's still something that it never occurred to me to go down there and shoot this, but they do very athletic things. I don't know if you can really tell because he hasn't done his job here, but they're climbing on these ribbons and supporting their whole weight and doing acrobatic things, and it's really cool. But what you have here is basically a series of portraits. There's nothing athletic. You can't really tell, and hence Ryu's wondering if it's really even a sport. It is. These are very athletic people.
I'm not debating whether or not it's athletic or not. I think it's it's like a fitness thing. Listen, I don't want to get into what's sport and what's not sport.
Okay, but here's the thing. You've taken something that's the photographer has taken something that's very athletic and turned it into a series of portraits. And the thing is that why are there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different frames squashed into one here? Pick one, make one that's interesting, and have that picture stand or fall on its own. We're not doing collages here.
Why?
We take a pretty wide variety of wide view of what's a sport and what's not a sport, but you still need to make good pictures of it. And you've taken something that's should be pretty cool to shoot and turn it into something that's insanely boring, and then given us five pictures of given us 5 pictures that are boring instead of one picture that's good. So better angles, shoot them when they're doing more interesting tricks, get closer, but this, squashing 5 pictures together and, oh yeah, look at all these pictures that I got. Yeah, you got a lot of pictures. Not good enough.
They do go up and down. I mean, they go up upside down, by the way. These things.
Yeah, they do all kinds of cool shit.
And they all seem to be upright on all every single one. Good God. Oh. Yeah, you can't stand up. You know what, Trevor? Let's start from this first. I think for next time, don't stand. Sit on the ground. I mean, there's no one else probably shooting besides you. Okay, you know what? Probably at least 2 other people probably sitting. It's not very, very, I don't know, dense. You have to be standing up so you're not blocking someone in front of you who's shooting as well. I'm sure. So let's start with.
And photography 101: expose your picture properly. I don't know what you were thinking, but this isn't exposed properly. A tiny little bit of white on somebody's uniform is not enough to say, oh, that's skin tones.
Moonlight. I can say it. Moonlight Rambler. Moonlight Rambler. I love this thing. Is it just a bit boring? Is that what it is? Like, that I don't like? I really love this. Like, it's nice. Like, I like that. The fact that you included that one. Maybe it's by accident. Maybe it's by design. I don't know. But is he not doing something interesting? Because I don't really think he's doing anything interesting.
I don't know. I think that without that, it would have been more interesting if he had, laid down. So those barriers are there for a reason, right? And if you're laying down in between those sticks, even if he comes off the course, he's still not going to hit you because he would hit those trees first. And then you have, like the sunlight coming through the leaves of the trees in the background. It would be really pretty. But, if this was like a grid or something like that was really uniform or something, I think it would be a lot cooler. But and not through any fault of your own, it just looks sloppy because it's not lined up well, and there's nothing you can do about that other than try and get rid of those. Get closer. I mean, this is the kind of thing where you need to get close. If you need to be like the thicker tree on the right edge of the frame, there's no reason why you couldn't be laying behind that tree. Like, there's no way that they're going to be able to hit you, and you'll be way closer to the action, but standing up 4 feet behind the barrier or something like that is not a recipe for a good picture.
And I really like the ropes, and I wish you would made a better use out of it. I think, like Matt said, it could have been a nice grid. It could kind of Instagram it and make it into a square. But the problem is the moment that you've shot, to me, it's not very particularly interesting. It's not really interesting at all. And if you're thinking about, if you were trying to use those ropes, make a picture out of it, I think you've done a very terrible job, because I don't think you made a good use out of it. And that's a boo-boo. That's not a very good thing to do. Nah, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go. No. Oh, this look is the classic. I shot something famous, and therefore it's a good moment. There you go, Matt Cohen. It's your favorite time of the year.
You could have handed your camera to a security guard and had him shoot this. You could have put your finger on it and just spun around in a circle and shot this. What this picture is screaming is, I didn't think about this at all, I just shot it. There's no thought whatsoever. I don't know how you got on the sideline. I don't really care, but the thing is that this is not a good moment. It's not anything that doesn't happen, 70 times a game. You need to take advantage of your opportunities better than this. You need to get, the thing is, you could have taken a short lens and stood by the sideline and only shot the bench and got better pictures than this. Random chance would have gotten you better pictures than this. You just need to do better. You need to wait for more interesting things that are going on. but just because you got logos of teams that people know, that just means less than nothing.
I could shoot this like blindfold, and I could
right.
do this.
Exactly.
And
it's not just because you have skill; it's because anybody could have shot this blindfolded.
Oh, God. Michael Lawless, by the way, that's your name. Yep, that sucks. Dick.
Yeah, so I invited this one, and listen, we tell people to shoot lower level stuff, high school, youth. The reason is because you can get close to what you're doing, and you're 15, 20 yards away. You need to be right next to them. Like, there's no reason that you can't. There's no question of access here. These people are just standing. I don't even know if they're standing on the field or not. I don't know if this is a practice or a game or whatever, but there's no reason that you couldn't be sitting right in front of them, shooting them. No reason at all. But instead, it's like I don't know, it's like a surveillance picture or something like that. Like you're a private eye showing this guy who's supposed to be on disability,
it's too
coaching soccer or something like that. Like, you need to be right there. And again, vignette.
Yeah.
Trust me, you're not saving this picture.
Oh yeah, it is, huh? I think we should have they have for Instagram, people put this hashtag no filter. I should hashtag no fucking vignettes.
Hashtag unnecessary vignette.
I think we should do a new T-shirt that says no fucking vignettes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Or no fucking colorizing. It should be here. Who the fuck did this? J-Rash? Jimmy? Is it Jimmy? J-Rash, isn't it?
Yep.
Why is this here? Oh,
yeah, no need for that to be here.
Matthew, hey, it's a red card. Dennis Rodman's there.
So don't shoot from the stands. Just don't.
Just
watch the game. It's never ever gonna be not obvious that you were shooting from the stands. Too far away, a weird, middle kind of elevation or something like that. And then, the ref has a red card, but unless those guys are actually brawling at the moment that he's giving it out, it's not going to be interesting. And then, I don't know what this filter is called, but it's like a hazy flare or something like that. But things don't look like this. Sports don't look like this. And if you want to shoot portraits and you want to be, in Vogue or something like that, then, yeah, you can put all the weird filters on that you want, but
not cool. Listen. But there are times it looks like this naturally as well.
Never.
I'm gonna
never looks like this.
It does, because I've actually shot in fog a little bit, like a light fog, and also
it doesn't look like that.
When they
it looks hazy. It looks hazy like that, but the colors never look like that.
You think it's a bit you might have desaturated. I don't know how you did it though. You desaturated.
It's not just the haze. It's not just the hazy filter. It's also this looks like a VSCO filter or something like that I have in my phone. This is not what sports looks like ever. I've shot in the fog. You've shot in the fog, but it doesn't make the colors look like that.
We should ask Rodman. Maybe he saw it first and it's oh no, really, it was a fog. I swear to God, it was a fog.
Yeah.
It's a shitty picture. You should just watch the game. Really? Kai Cobb is still alive? No. It's not even.
All right. So yeah, the explanation, because he was being engaged by one of our regulars. I forget, maybe Mike. I don't know. But the idea was that he was trying to go for the rubber pellets that were mixed in with the smoke or something like that.
Like these things?
But
like that?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can do that, and I have pictures like that, but I was shooting at track level through a barrier, and I was 20 feet away from what I was shooting, not 50 yards away from what I was shooting.
Far, doesn't it? It looks really far.
Yeah. So if you're if you're here's a very simple rule, and I can't really even think of any kind of exceptions to it, but if you're shooting and your intent is to get a tiny little detail, then you need to be very, very close to that little detail. Okay? You can't be shooting something that's the size of a dime if you're 50 yards away. It just doesn't matter. Like, the smoke's not interesting enough. Those tiny little pellets are an afterthought. The angle is weird and you're just too far away. If you want to get those, figure out how to get down on the track, find a safe spot, either beside or behind a barrier or something like that, and then go for the grit and the tire pellets or whatever. But you're too far away here, and it's also out of focus. So even if you had nailed like some little stream of pellets that were flying out at exactly the same angle or something like that, it's still going to be out of focus. So good job for trying for something a little bit different and not fitting the whole car in, and that's all fine, but you still have to execute it, and executing it means getting it in focus and getting a lot closer than this.
That's good, though. I like this one. Like, it's not I love it, but it's good.
Yeah, there's really nothing wrong with it. It could be cropped in. Like, the guy in the blue shirt on the right is not really adding anything to it.
No, this guy.
And there's a space between them, so there's an easy crop there. But nothing wrong with this picture.
As we go. It's the Brendan colorizing bank now. That was a bad one. We'll see it next month. We're talking about the whole colorizing thing. We shall see. It's all in Brendan Banks' glory next month. He is, but for someone who actually don't know who this is Brendan Bank, and he's very, very good. He's a surf photographer, and he's very, very good photographer. He's got a bit crazy. And he started colorizing stuff, and we just kind of put a kibosh on it. And the reason why is that the fact that this cloud looks like the UK. The reason is that you get to a certain point in your career and your skill, and you either go forward and climb the mountain further up and find new things and try new things, like photography-wise. Or you kind of get lazy and start, fidgeting with Photoshop for hours and then getting like, oh my god, we really great. I just put everything black and white, but I'll put the person in color. Hence, what he's done. But like I said, we'll see that next week. This one doesn't work for me because if I crop it just a little bit at the bottom, it's just a woman, or I don't really care, man or woman, with the background of the sky. That's it. There's not enough water at the bottom. You can see. I didn't even actually see that when it was very, very small, and that's not good because I need to have a bit of association, like what the hell's going on. It just doesn't really do it for me, especially that minimal amount of water at the bottom. It kind of aggravates me more than anything because he could have actually, if this is the type of picture you wanted to take, with the sky as a background and the surfer in the foreground, you could have waited for another moment that signified, even without the board, even just with water, there could be like more waters at some point than just this little speck that's actually.
Yeah, if he had been able to get up, even just hold the camera above his head or something if he was swimming, but black and white in the sky and then like really, really dark water behind him, I think that would have been a lot cooler. It's just lacking, I don't know, a little bit of depth to it.
Yeah.
I like how the kid's face is half in the light and half in the shadow, though. That's a cool kind of look, but
he's vignetting as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked to him about that.
He's been going, Kevin, places. He's getting better.
He's getting a lot better.
Boring.
Yeah.
It's really boring. Nothing
Yeah.
there. Even if that was Ronaldo, even if that was Messi, even if it was really famous, it doesn't really do it. He's not doing anything. And that doesn't really do it. So, our wonderful, wonderful Miguel Warman. Your T-shirt is coming, but apparently the spreadshirt will not let me send it to Russia directly. I checked it; they don't really do it. So it's going to Matt Cohen first, and Matt Cohen will send you a T-shirt. It will get there eventually. You're just waiting. He is a basketball coach, manager, and he's got a clipboard with the basketball thing on it. If I cannot see that, it's just a dude walking, and you can't do that. So what's the most prominent thing? What would actually tell a story here is the clipboard. So if you're gonna do a pan, the clipboard, like for instance, like he's swinging the other way, so basically his left arm is up and the right arm is behind. Then there's something, but that's not gonna be nearly enough. Maybe he tossed it in the air and he got them like right, it's in the air. Maybe the clipboard is like covering his head. Something interesting has to be happening there. Just panning is not going to do it, and it really rarely does. People just fucking go crazy with this whole panning thing. So just need that. We could have can we have a T-shirt that says panning is not enough?
I don't know. I actually like this picture, so I'm not with you on this one.
Okay, so that's crazy. I'm not. So listen to me. It's not enough. All right, I invited this one, but I'll let you have it, Matt Cohen.
Okay, so if you're shooting in this kind of light, then you need to come away with a better picture than this, because the only thing that you've done is figured out what the right exposure is for the highlights, and that's good, but it's not good enough to make something that's ordinary like this into something interesting. But I don't know. I can't even remember the last time I was able to shoot in light like this. It's 6-8 months at least. Sometimes at rodeos they'll have qualifying at 7 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes that's what the light looks like, but rarely. So you need to find better moments than this in the very short time that you have light like this. It's just not an interesting moment, and the light doesn't overcome the fact that it's not an interesting moment.
The exposure is very, very good. I could even actually tone down even a bit more and just really have just the light and just wait for a great moment. We blew it basically. Scott Rathke. Do we have to talk about this or no? Can we just move on?
I have no interest in talking about this. It's an interesting car, and you didn't do anything interesting with it.
John Osborne Williams with the Bears, but that B is Boston. So maybe it's Boston Bears. I don't know. Could be. By the way, Jeter retired. I don't even care. But, and Pittsburgh lost again this year, right?
Yeah, but they made the playoffs. Oh, the Pirates made the playoffs. The Steelers will not make the playoffs.
Anyhow, I wanted to talk about it. What?
So posed pictures like this are just they're boring. Like the dude who has the trophy and was actually on the team is real happy, but the dude who just wants to look hard and wasn't on the team or wasn't playing or whatever.
This guy, the boss.
Yeah, it's no good. Players and coaches or whatever, not just dudes who are hanging around, but the backlight is cool and the flare is cool and everything, but you need to get closer. If you're already in the scrum, then be in the scrum. And look for
school, right? Isn't it? Has to be high school.
Has to be, yeah.
Yeah. Great is that? Nice light as well,
Yeah, but that guy on the right is killing it.
That sucks. It's a shitty photo, and the reasons that Matt gave exactly that. If you can get on the pitch or the field like that, Oh God! You gotta do a better job. You really, really have to do a much, much better job than what you've done over here because it really isn't enough. Honestly, it really isn't. So, I'm sorry about that. I think I wanted to do like back in the, you know, 1910 type of thing. It's just a bit sloppy because I think they're looking at something, but it's not really interesting because it's really not that interesting. It's not like that the way they're looking. Maybe like if for instance like if they were all same pose and looking at intently with something, maybe there could be something there. But just with this, and now I mean, Opalman, he's a good photographer. Huh? For those of you who actually don't know Michael Borman, he's a very good photographer. And like I said, don't start resorting to these things where you've made it to black and white just for the sake of making black and white, thinking that, oh yeah, we'll add to a very interesting moment. It's not interesting enough to be even converted into black and white. This is a throwaway picture. And I hope you guys videos, huh?
Here's how to make this picture better. You're already on the sideline. Well, you're already on the sideline, right? The access is already taking care of itself. You're in the bench area, which is even better. So kneel down in front of these guys. Like, I'm not saying you need to block them from watching the game or whatever, but get as close as you can to them. This picture, you have the guy who's standing up on the left-hand side. He doesn't need to be in there. And if you had composed this, if you had looked at this scene and said, all right, well, there's really no way I'm going to be able to get all four of these guys looking at what's going on in the field and still have a good composition. Like, it's just going to be compromised by the background. It's going to be compromised by the guy that's standing on the left-hand side. So you say, all right, well, is 3 players looking onto the field enough? If it is, then you can completely crop out the left side, the left whole third of that picture you can crop out. Are 2 guys enough? Is 1 guy enough? Think about what you have to work with and then figure out if I'm adding having a pattern that repeats itself is really cool, but if by having 1 additional or 2 additional versions of that pattern in there, you're introducing things that are killing the picture, then you need to sacrifice those things for a cleaner picture. So if you'd been real close and you just said, all right, 85, 98, and 88 are close enough, and I can get close enough to them that there's nothing going on, there's nobody sitting down in the background, there's no air conditioning fans, and there's no signs or whatever, then just go for that, because 1 more person plus or minus is not going to outweigh the bad things that you're introducing by going that wide. And that far away. So either get closer and isolate all of them, or realize the best you can do is get 2 or 3 of those guys and then get those two or three guys. And then the other thing is that if you're already on the sideline and you're in the bench area, there are possibilities for more interesting pictures than this.
What do you say? It's out of focus. Let's just see. Also, motion blur.
Yeah, this is really a trifecta of a disaster here. Standing up, underexposed, out of focus, motion blur, people in the background that really shouldn't be, that really don't need to be in the background.
It'd be like the T-shirt thing, like trifecta of bad things to do in explosive photography. Don't stand. Yeah. Don't blur. And I don't know.
Yeah, well, the problem is there's more than 3, but it's just you can't do this. Like if you had been laying down,
it's terrible.
If you'd been laying down right here and you got the exposure right, you would have had a guy diving with the ball right into your camera.
Yeah, and that's a shame, Like he's had everything just lined up for them, and he just blew it like big time. And how could you? It was very simple stuff that like just Matt said. Like if you just been doing anything, that you would know that this is something you shouldn't be doing, but you just does it anyway. I mean, come on. And you don't really get that many moments in American football angle, like the guy comes directly in front of you. At least be in front of you, you know? It's a shame. You love John Osborne Williams, Matt. It's a new friend. He's celebrating number 19, but there's something wrong with this celebration or something wrong with this photo. What could it be?
Well, his face is like completely in the shadows, and the light pole right behind. You got to be more careful. You just have to be more careful when you're shooting.
Or just like add the light pole to the whole thing, like, you know, then frame it so that it's just like his upper body and his thing, or it's just, you know, it's those standard celebration moments doesn't automatically become great moments just because he fucking scored. You know? And you have to really think about that. Like, okay, what's interesting in this is that fact that he scored. Like I said, you need two things to make sports photography interesting, not just one. So you think he's hollering, so that makes it two? No. So what, as you as a photographer thinking at that moment, okay, think, what can I do? In a split second, you have to be thinking, like, what can I do to make this interesting? Should I just go for, like, his, you know, face and his, I don't know, maybe the guy's going to jump right behind him. I don't know, like, something might have actually happened right after this that you missed. Or that you framed it in a way that is the most boring standard way you can possibly do. So, anything, scoring is not an automatic, you know, a free pass to greatness. It isn't. Because we're not here, you know, we're not, like, what we do over here is not trying to make you into an agency photographer where scoring is paramount. Like, you know, getting a celebration shot of scores is the most important thing in the whole world. It really isn't. We're here to make you into a better sports photographer, not a better agency photographer. That's what you're looking out for. Because if you can do, you know, if you can take beautiful moments, you're not going to be around, you're going to have easy time doing agency stuff, because that's like really quite easy thing that you have to, you know, do during your work. But to take really brilliant moments in a very brilliant fashion is not a very easy thing to do. Like I said, you got to be thinking a lot more than what John Osborne Williams has been doing. He's not thinking shitty picture. I mean, I don't know. I don't really care for this. Do you?
No, I think it's just it's a matter of, it's a cool moment. You know, getting a diving save is a rare kind of thing, but you're just really undone by the fact that it looks like it was in practice and
or someone's backyard.
Yeah, there's like no contact. It's not. There's no other players crashing the net, and there's no. The rest of it doesn't look like a soccer kind of picture. I mean, it's, you know, the benefits are your timing is perfect. Like, this is, you know, this is when you wanted to take the picture, and you were, you know, you did the best you could. It's just the setting for all of it and what was going on there, whether it was a practice or a game or whatever, doesn't look like it's a game. Doesn't look like it's a competition at all. So good timing. You did everything you could do, other than shooting somewhere that was more interesting looking and getting a better moment than this. But, you know, it's good. You know, the timing is good. Like, that doesn't come easy to a lot of people, so that's good.
I don't know. Is it midget football? That's what it is? I don't know if it's little kids. Now they're playing football.
Yeah.
Pointing out to me. That's nice. But like I said, you know, do I care? Do I really care? Is it interesting? He scored. That's interesting. Now it's your job to make the fucking moment interesting. And there it is. Like, it's your fucking job to make it interesting. If you made this moment interesting, then you haven't, photography-wise. You get into your head, you know? You gotta be thinking about that now as well. Like, you gotta get into your head. How can I make this moment interesting? How you are the person making it interesting, not them. They've done the job. You picked the moment. Now make it interesting. You have it. So. cool. Oh, we're almost there, by the way. I think I remember this one. Maybe Christopher Walken? No, Christopher Walken. It's somewhere in England, I think, huh? Is it? I think so. All right, Michael, and people playing football.
Yeah,
A bit
I
rustic
mean,
on this side.
this is just a straight up throwaway. Signs in the background, too far away, just no separation between the subject and the background. I would really be interested in knowing what the person who shot this thought that they were doing, because it's puzzling to me.
Not the lack of, you know,
Yeah.
equipment. Okay. Better. Interesting? Yes. Sort of. Really interesting? No, not really. Photography-wise, no, not really at all. And it's a bit of a shame, like, for these type of situations where it's in quite an old club. I like the whole rustic thing to the whole thing. Background, not that interesting. There's not moment. Is it more interesting? I'm just saying, is it more interesting than the previous moment that you shot? It is much more interesting.
Yeah.
But is it interesting enough? Not really. Unfortunately, sorry. That's it. Do you have like final thoughts for the day? I'm gonna start with like final thoughts for the day. You want to even?
No, I mean, it's good to see some of the people who have been with us for a little while getting better, but it's kind of demoralizing seeing people coming in who it seems like they're spending a lot of time shooting and no time whatsoever thinking. And I hope that we're not too late to get them to think about what they're doing, because I know that once you get in the habit of just firing away every time you go out, it's hard to slow down and start thinking. And I only came home with 600 pictures instead of 1,000 pictures because I spent some time thinking or something like that. I hope that we can get the people to that point.
Sit down, spend as less time in front of Photoshop as possible, and then like Matt said, you gotta be thinking a bit more. This was brought to you by BigLens-Shutter.com, the preeminent sports photography website in the world. I just came up with that. Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
What we do is we try to help you become a better sports photographer by being an awful people that you probably meet this month. Probably the worst than the guy who's serving you Starbucks coffee at the corner of, I don't know, Madison Avenue and some other street in New York. The best thing to do is if you just came here by accident, or if you just only know about this only through Flickr, you can go to BigLensFastShutter.com and you will have the entire website where Matt and I have written a lot of blog posts about sports photography and how you can actually get better, and as well as like competition rules, and you can buy T-shirts, and I don't know, like you can buy small babies if you want, because if you buy like 10 slices of pizza, apparently these days you can get one small hamster. You can, by the way. I said that on like Daily Mail. So anyway, that was BigLens-Shutter.com, and that was Training Ground, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And if I made you cry, but you made you cry, really sorry. You deserve it.